Welcome to the second video on collections. This one is going to be about data dictionaries. Now, data dictionaries are a thing that are interesting in Python. They're built into Python as a concept. They're used in a lot of other places, a lot of other languages. You will see when you download or install computer games, you'll often get .dll files. Those are known as data link libraries or data dictionaries. What they are is they are where we match up a particular piece of information to a particular piece of information so that we can connect them. For example, if you're talking about a computer game, you may have a character that has certain statistics: health, strength, wisdom, intellect, weapon type, all those sorts of things. Those will be mapped up against things. When we have a regular array or something, it can be very confusing to try and reference those things as numbers, and two-dimensional arrays, which is where you have a pair of values stored in an array location, can become quite complex. To get around this, Python have invented something called data dictionaries. They are two-dimensional collections where information is stored as pairs of pairs, a key and a value. Think about a key like the location in the array that we were talking about in the last video. A key is simply what we're going to use to reference the actual information. Keys link up to information. In this case, for example, as I've got here, we have a piece of information about a car, a particular car. Now, like sets, datas, dictionaries are unordered, but they can be changed. And they're unordered because it doesn't really matter where we store the information. It doesn't matter where in memory each of these pieces of information is, because we're not sorting these out as numbers or as references in that way. We're referencing them as pieces of information. So if we go here to our Python, I will clear from what we did before. We're going to put this in as this dictionary is equal to a new particular car. So let's set this up, and there's one little thing that I may have done as an error here that I think should be on that line. So now we have a dictionary piece of information which has a car, which we're referencing as a type of car, and it is a Ford Mustang from 1964. You'll notice that 1964 here is an integer, not a string. So in order to actually reference a piece of this, firstly, we can simply print this as one big thing like we did with our data dictionary. So I can print this dictionary. And when we print it, as you will see, it simply prints all the information in order. It has a semicolon between the keys and the information, it has a comma between the different keys and information sets, but it prints it just as a thing. It just prints it out as information. Now I can in turn print a particular piece of this information by using the .get command. So if I want to, for example, just print the model number, first thing I'm going to do is print a new /n so I can get a new line. Now, if I want to just print the model, I can go print, type in a new print statement, and I'm going to use this dictionary and we're going to use the get command to access the information that relates to a particular key. And I'm going to pass it that key as if it's a function, and in this case, I want model. Now, the key here, the key is a string. You have to see that the key in this case, and I'm pointing to the screen, I don't know why, the key is a string, so the key has to be passed in as a string. So I'm going to access the model, and I'm going to return what is referencing to that model. And if we run this, you'll see that it returns Mustang. So what this has done is we've used a simple little function called get, and we have gone to this dictionary and said, I want you to return to me the piece of information associated with the key that I give you. I can change this easily to year, and it will print the year the same sort of way. So now I'm asking it for a particular piece of information in the same way that I would have used a square bracket and the number of the location. So we're referencing these keys on this side here. These keys are as if they are the specific locations. Now, if I want to change some of this information, I can change it in a very similar way to what I would have changed the information in our array, by referencing this location. So, for example, if this car wasn't in fact the 1964 model, it was a 1972 model, I can use a pair of square brackets and ask for the year and then override whatever that piece of information is. So rather than having 1964, I'm going to put 1972 in. So here I'm going in this location, which is referenced by the key called year, and I'm going to pass it a new piece of information. Then when I print the dictionary, I need to put that on the top there. So let's space this out a little bit. When I print this dictionary, it will now tell me that 1964 here is the default. 1964 is the piece that it has referenced. But when this loads, can we load quicker, please? I'm trying to make a video here. We all have problems with the internet sometimes. Now, when I have got this loaded, I've changed the year to 1972 in our dictionary. So I can actually go to and access this, and I can overload the year. Now, the advantages of these, and this is it. When we go to, let me just have a look through down here. Yeah, and the other thing I can do is I can pop out a particular piece using the exact same way as I did in the other collection. So I will go down here to this dictionary .pop, and again, rather than passing it a particular piece of information, instead of passing it a location, I pass it the reference. So the reference will be year. And if I again print this dictionary, now the year should be gone altogether, if this will work for me nice and quickly. And there we are. So now I only have two pieces of information. I have a Ford and I have a Mustang. Now, this is where we can start to see the advantages of using data dictionaries, because now we can have all of our information stored in one place. If we were, for example, a car yard making a collection of cars, we could have all of our information stored in the one spot. And this is where we can start to work on this by putting variables inside variables. That's what we've really done here. We have three variables that are stored inside of this dictionary. So we have three separate variables that are stored inside this dictionary. We've then gotten one out and printed it. We've then changed it, and then we've deleted it, and we've printed it all back. But we have this advantage, and I can do this nice and quickly by finding and replacing this dictionary with car 1, and I can, whoopsie. So if I replace all of the instances of this dictionary, and you can do this too with car 1, replace them all. Okay. If I replace all of the instances of this dictionary with car 1, the advantage is that we can then create ourselves a list of cars by adding a couple more. So this first one is a Ford Mustang. Let's put down two more here, and we're going to call them car 2 and car 3. Now, we're going to have the first one being a Holden Commodore. And yes, I can't spell, and it's going to be a 2015 model. And then we're going to have a Toyota Corolla. And we're going to make this one a 2020 model, just for the sake of the argument. Now, I've already printed car 1 here, but what I can do is I can also print car 2, and I can print car 3. And if I'm right, all this information, all this information should have been stored. So now I've changed the name of our variable. That's all I've done. I've changed the name of our variable here, and I have simply left all this information here. So by the end of this is still a Ford Mustang. This is absolutely right. So it's a Ford Mustang, saving the same way. Then I've created two more objects, two more variables, two more dictionaries. One, a Holden Commodore, the other, a Toyota Corolla. The advantage that we have here is now we can actually set up a list, and we can give it these three cars and then see if that will work. So I'm going to create a list called my cars. It's equal to a list, which has open brackets because we've got to call the list constructor. And then in that, I have another pair of open brackets, and I'm going to pass it car 1, car 2, and car 3. So what I've done is I've now created a list, and rather than giving it new pieces of information, I've simply given it the cars that we've already done. Rather than like we did before with an array, giving it individual bits, I've given it the whole cars. And here, if I print my cars, I now am expecting that all of this information will be printed in one big brick. Let's see if it works. There it is. There's our first one, and you'll notice that they're separated off by the curly brackets. The Ford Mustang, which is car number 1, the Holden Commodore 2015, car number 2, and the Toyota Corolla 2020, car number 3. This is where the advantages of collections come, because now we can bundle collections into collections into collections. Now we can have a whole set of collections of different things. If you think about the different bits that make up a person, think about all the things that go into make up an individual human. You have fingers attached to hands, attached to arms, making up an arm structure, which is making a whole quarter of the body. Then you have 2 of those. You can have a collection of fingers inside a hand object, a pair of hands inside a human object, a hand, a forebone, and an arm bone inside of an arm object, right? Attached to a shoulder object, attached to a body, attached to a torso. You can build these collections up yourself in your own way. So this is the advantage of how collections work. So you're asked to create a dictionary about pets and include some information there. You're asked to change one of those and have the user select those. So now, rather than selecting locations, the user's going to be selecting keys. The user's going to actually be selecting different keys. How do we add pieces of information? We simply use append. So if I go back up here to car 1, and I'm going to append car 1, yes, I want that there and there. So here, I'm going to have car1 dot append, and this time we need to pass it 2 pieces of information, because we need to pass it both a key and we need to pass it the information. So instead of putting those in, I'm going to say crashed, and I need a comma to separate the 2, and I'm going to go, no, it is not crashed. So if I run this and this is right, that's not worked right. So let me just check on that. I'll be back in 1 second. Right, sorry, we don't need to actually append a dictionary here. So what we do instead is we actually set up a new value. So we use car1, we use square brackets for what we want the key to be called. In this case, it's going to be called crashed. And then we use our equal sign as a value, and we add that in that way. No, we don't. Oh, wait, no, delete the curly brackets, sorry. Right, so now we have here, yes, so we have added a new piece of information by passing it a new key. So rather, when it sees that there's a new key like we have, a key here like we have up here, it will look through and see if that key is already there. If it's already there, it will change the value that has been given already. If it isn't there, it will add that to it. So as we can see here, crashed is to no. And we've got that in our variable there. And you can see that it's also popped up in the bottom section where we have our list printed. So we can add new pieces of information and have the user offer them back. So again, when we are doing this, you will set up a new input statement where you will have some variables here. And you can have variables going in here like this if you want to. You can have ask the user for a new type of information, what the key will be, and then you can have whatever that new information is. So you'll just use some input statements and some variables there. That's Data Dictionaries, and this is Python Collections. I'll come back to you with another video shortly. I hope you've learned something. If you have any trouble, please feel free to email me, drop me a line. And as always, thank you for watching.